guys, how's it going? I'm actually sitting in my chair for once instead of on my footrest. Like, I feel so fancy. Today's video is my book of the month review for the month of August. If you don't know, every month I pick my favorite book that I had read and I do a full-length review on it. I'll leave the playlist linked up above and down below, but let's just get right into this month's favorite book, which was really hard to pick. I actually read 2 books this month that I rated 10 out of 10, but I'm gonna go with The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, although Daughter of Smoke and Bone was a very close second. If you don't know what the story is about, it is a gorgeous, atmospheric story about a circus that magically just appears and disappears and has untold wonders and fans, devoted fans, that come from all over the world, and it is so great. But it's really about a competition, and I don't want to go into too many details about it because the book, for the most part, is very purposefully vague, at least in the beginning, about the competition, so I don't know, I liked that. I liked kind of the slow discovery along with the characters of what was going on, and I don't want to take that away from someone else. If you're curious, you can look it up, but I'm not going to be discussing that aspect of it because this is going to be a spoiler-free review. I loved the concept of a magical circus, and it did not disappoint. The vibe was just so perfect for it, and like it just felt so great. Like, I wanted to live in this world and go to the circus and just experience this in every way that I could, even though it's only a book and I can't really go to the Night Circus. But the execution was everything I'd hoped for and more. The plot was more complex than I expected, and the atmosphere. I'll get to that in a minute. As far as the story itself goes, though, there are a couple different timelines that we switch between and a couple different points of view. I did really like that the secondary cast started off really minor and kind of just gradually grew naturally more important as it met up with what I would consider the main timeline and the 2 main characters. And then by the time that they all met up, I was equally invested and in love with everybody. I thought that the ending was really satisfying. I thought it tied everything up really nicely. Like, I was bummed that it ended, but I liked the ending. As far as characters go, I thought they were fascinating, which you kind of expect from a story with a bunch of circus folk, but it really was even better than I expected. Honestly, so many of them were so complex and layered and so real. Like, even the side characters just felt like they had so many different dimensions and aspects of their personality and just felt so fleshed out, and it was just so great, and so many of them are lovable and they are perfectly flawed. I'd say my favorite character was probably, I don't know how you pronounce it, Chandresh? See, not only do I not know how to pronounce that name, but I don't even call him that name in my head. For some reason, I call him Charlemagne. That's just the name that stuck in my head, and every time I look at his name, my brain says Charlemagne, which is not his name. But anyway, I loved him. He was so... he was fun and eccentric, but like he was troubled, and I loved him. I loved all the characters, Also, the relationships in this were so well done, and there were so many different types of relationships. Like, I loved Celia's really complicated relationship with her father that was actually layered and complicated and had reasons, not just the typical really interesting to read. And I loved Poppet and Widget's perfect siblingry. That's not a word, but you know what I mean, as siblings, their sibling relationship, that's what I'm trying to say. Their sibling relationship was just so perfect, and just the way they interacted, I absolutely loved. I am a sucker for a good sibling relationship, so they were so great to see. I loved Celia's pure and genuine friendship with, is it Friedrich? But I loved just how it was just such a wholesome friendship, and I like that it was a friendship, not there was nothing else to it. It wasn't like a potential romance or there's this secret undertones of hatred. It was just friendship, and you never see that in books. And surprisingly, I actually really liked the main romance of this, which, you guys know, I do not care about romance the vast majority of the time. But this one was just, I don't know, I found it built really naturally. It was kind of a forbidden love, but it wasn't that overly dramatic. Well, I mean, it was dramatic because everything in this book is, they're circus folk, everything's dramatic. But it was it was very coy and like playful, and it was like just the back and forth of it and just how like natural it was, and the chemistry of the two characters. Like, I was actually really invested in it. I actually really cared about the romance. I really wanted them to work it out and be together even though everything was against them, and that doesn't happen with me. But I just liked that the romance was basically just this like coy little game that just evolved, and I thought it was really cute. Another thing that was beautiful in this book was the world building. It was very strongly rooted in reality, but with magic, and I really like that. This also takes place in the very late 1800s, very early 1900s, so it had that like historical vibe to it, but it had the magic, and it was just, I don't know, it was that perfect, like everything lining up and just the elements of everything just meshing together so well. Like, the way it was done, I was so convinced that the real world does have magic, which, like, that's a completely separate rant. I love magic, and I love books that make me feel like our world has magic and I just haven't noticed it yet, or I love that, and I love that it really makes me believe that. It feels real, and not just in a typical fantasy, like, realistic way, but like genuinely real. Like, as I was reading this, like, a little part of my brain was like, okay, like, I know this is a book, but can we still go to the Night Circus? And I know that that's wrong, but like, I still partially almost believe that I could go to the Night Circus and that I could join this world. And it was just such an amazing reading experience. Like, it was so immersive. I very rarely felt anything like this. Like, it was just amazing world building. As far as writing style goes, holy crap, this atmosphere, like, incredible, absolutely amazing. The tone and the vibe and the feel of this world was just so amazing, so well done. Every single like word and character and action, like everything was just so immersive and just fit so perfectly, and it was just a mind-blowing experience. Honestly, one of the most well-crafted atmospheres I've ever read. Maybe the most well-crafted atmosphere I've ever read. Like, I really can't praise this enough. This book is honestly an experience, and I just want everybody to read this and to live in this world. To be fair though, there was a couple very small criticisms I had. The first one is maybe minor, and it might just be a personal pet peeve of mine, but there were a lot of just really random French words thrown in. Like, I find a lot of books when they just throw random French words in are almost obnoxious, and this book didn't quite get there. It kind of got close, I feel like. And I don't know, I just feel like this book didn't really need that. Like, it was doing fine on its own. It didn't need to kind of resort to that, if that makes sense. But that really could just be a personal pet peeve of mine. And the other thing is that I found the dates were kind of confusing in this. Every chapter header includes the location and the date, and I just don't usually pay attention to that stuff, and maybe I should be paying attention to that, but the timeline, especially there was one section of the book where it really like skipped back and forth, and I know it was done to like build tension, and it was well done, but I didn't always pick up that we were in a different timeline, so things just suddenly didn't make sense. Like, they'd be going from planning the circus to at the circus, and then the next one they'd be planning the circus again, but I thought that they were still at the circus, and it was just enough to be confusing. So I would recommend, if you're reading this, do pay attention to the little headers in the chapters, because they actually are helpful. But it was one tiny detail, and I mean, this was still a 10 out of 10 book, so like, it really didn't detract from anything, but if I had to have a criticism, that would be it. As far as miscellaneous praise goes, this cover is gorgeous. Like, it really sums it up. Like, it's just, I don't know, I really think it's a very well done cover. It suits it. And also the color scheme in this book, like, the circus is all black and white, and if there's any splash of color, it's red. It's mostly in the scarves of the fans, but I don't know, it was just the color scheme of the circus was mentioned so much that I could really picture it. And a lot of times in some books, when they just mention colors a lot, I picture it for a second, but it doesn't stay in my head. But because this book was so vivid, and because I could just like picture it so clearly in my mind's eye, like I was in this world and watched everything play out, the color scheme just really suited it. And I know that's something weird to say, about a book because like there's no illustrations, there's no colors, but the color scheme just really worked. Overall, like I said, a 10 out of 10. I would highly recommend this book. I will definitely be checking out anything else that Erin Morgenstern writes because I loved the writing in this book, and this is just really amazing storytelling and world building and this atmosphere. Like, it was just such a well-crafted book that I would really trust anything else that this author wrote, and I will definitely be checking out her other books. So many people told me I was gonna love it, so I was a little bit nervous, but it exceeded my expectations. It was so amazing. Just But that is all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've read this book, definitely leave your thoughts down below or message me if you want to talk about anything spoilery, because this book was so amazing. I am just so in love. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button to let me know, and don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of my reading and my writing and my cats and whatever else I post about.